today's video, we're going to tell you a little bit about PAA Basics, in this case, how to cope with SQL. Well, why? Because we got a customer who said, yeah, we got this whole low-code thing and it's all nice, but it's not SQL, you know? I want to have more freedom. And the good news is, yeah, we got that. So, even better news is that there are no boundaries whatsoever. So we're going to do a little bit of demo to tell you more about that, and hopefully you benefit from that. And in order to do so, we have a very simple scenario, and we want to have multiple variations on that. So let's say we want to create a database with company and contacts. So very simple to start with, and some scenarios that we can all relate to. So if we want to create a database with companies, we have some fields here, and of course it can be as much as you want, but just for starters, we want the company name and the address and some things like the house numbers and where they live, and another table with contacts. So initially we want to have the basics as well. So I want to know how to address someone, if it's sir or ma'am, first name, last name, and company. And I wrote down that the field type should be a text, just to see what we're going to do next, because we want to have 4 scenarios here. So first of all, we want to jump in and tell you about how to create a relationship between contacts and companies. So how to interact the 2 tables, and we want to allow you to add something in this table. So we're going to add the customer status, and we want to create a list because we want to move towards a SQL scenario. So we have 2 scenarios there. One is where we use the low-code capabilities, and one is where we escape from that and use our own SQL to do that. So I launched a new trial for this one, a new trial from the Plans app. So I called this environment Demo Basics, and in order to start is that we press the configuration, and we got a whole lot of options, but for starters, we just choose entities, which is basically the same as tables. And as we mentioned, we want to create 2 tables, one with companies and one with contacts. So if you have a more advanced environment, you can create several namespaces, but in this case, the default is just fine. So we just select the default, and we have company, and the plural is companies, right? There's the Bootstrap 5 UI, which is just fine, and we don't need a parent page, and we just continue. And this is where we start creating the table for companies. And what we're going to do is we're going to match this part. So we want to have a field with company name, address, etc. So this is the company name, and we're going to add a property, and it will be text, and it also allows me to select this one as the display name. So if we're going to look for a company, or better, a company name, this is the default value. And so here's address, and this will also be a text field. There's the house number. For this, I also choose text because you can imagine that you want an integer or something like this, but there are many scenarios where a house number is not just a number but also something added. So we have postal code, and we have city name, and we have email. And for this one, I'll select the email. This, by the way, this is quite nice to see that there are a number of field types which they all have their own specifics, and options to validate. So because I choose email, it will expect a real email address, helping me to prevent errors in this one. So website, and you can also say, well, I want a URL for this one. So city name, email, website. Do I have everything? I think phone number. I still need phone number for this. And because this was added later on, but I can still move this one to the position that I want. So this looks fine by me. So I'm going to save this one. So right now I have already created a table called company. So the next one is to create a table contact. So this will take a couple of seconds, and I can create a new entity. I could import from another one, but we're going to start fresh. So contacts is plural. Again, this is what I want. So first name, and here's the last name. And in this scenario, I want the display name to be the last name. What do we need more? Phone, email, company. So here's a phone number. Here's the email. And again, I want to have the email field here. And there's a company. And I don't do company name on purpose. So at this point, I have created two tables, and this is all done now. So the next one is to create a relationship between contacts and companies. Because currently, maybe I can better even show you why that is important. And to do so, I can go to the preview, which will open up a new tab. And if I do contacts, I can add new contact, of course. So these are the fields that I just created, but I can create anything here. So I could just of course there are required fields, because that's what we need. This is not good. To have a proper record, and I'll leave this one empty. So I created the record with contacts, but if I would create a company, and this is company name, and so I do a little bit different. And if I go to contacts, you will see that there's no relationship, so there will be inconsistencies. So this is not what we want. So we're going to delete this record, and we're going to go back to the contacts. So that's one of the great things about low code, is that I can still change a whole lot of things without diving into the SQL. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to save it. I'm going to override, because I know what I'm doing here. So now contact has removed the company record here. I'm going to create it again, and maybe even do company name. And this time I'm going to not do text field, but I'm going to make reference to an entity. So here's company, and that's actually it. So I'm going to again override it and wait a bit. So what it just did is, under the hood, it created a connection with the table company. So I just click anywhere to remove that. I'm going to go back to the preview state. So here again is contact. So now if I'm going to create a new contact, it should have company name fields and also interact with what is stored here in companies, because I did not remove this record. So I'm going to go back to contacts. I'm going to go create a new contact, and again I'm going to leave this, and immediately you see that if I go here, you see there's drop down. Styling could be a little bit better, but you can see that it says Chaps Digital. So I'm going to add this one, and this is now referenced to companies. If I go to companies and decide that I'm going to change the name, and update here, it says your data was saved. So in contacts it also now says company name, Chaps Digital Agency. This proves that there is a relation between companies and contacts just in a matter of minutes. So we actually already did scenario 1. So we created the relationship between that. So it is still, I'm going to correct this one because now it's company name, it is, and this one is a relation entity. So that's what we did. And the next scenario is that we want to add a customer status to contacts. So we want to see if there's a prospect or a customer. So what we're going to do is we have actually two choices, because if we're going to go into contacts, I could just add a field here, customer status, and then create a drop down providing prospect or customer. What we can also do is go back, because it's so easy to create a new entity. So we can say, well, we want to have a customer status as a different entity. So this is status name, add property. This is what's been displayed. Wait a bit, and we now have customer status as a new entity. So if we now go back to contacts, we can add customer status as property. Again, we are not going to do just a text field. We're going to make a relationship, in this case to customer status. We're going to save it, we're going to override it. So this is now done. We're going to refresh the preview. So there's now customer status, and I can add a prospect, and I can add a customer. And the great thing about this is that if I want to add more, like a suspect or what is the old customer, or how you want to call it, to maybe differentiate, and maybe you want to say, well, chapter 11, you can have any status that you want. So we're going to go back to companies. That's yeah, it's always a choice. I think I should not have added it here, because it just doesn't make sense to have customer status. I think we should have added the customer status to company. So we're going to go back to contacts, and we're going to remove it here, customer status, because we want to connect that to the company and not to the contact. Otherwise, if a company is a prospect or is a customer, it will not be available on other contacts. So we're going to go to company. So this is actually a demo where we demonstrate that I can make errors. I can have new insights, which is very important if you want to be agile in the way of working. So now the company is connected to customer status, and we can move forward instantly. So we're going to override this one. We're going to refresh this one. So company now has the customer status. It has all the aspects that I want. So let's say there's a customer, and in fact that's already scenario 2. But I made a boo-boo, so we don't want to add status to contacts, but to company. And we did even more. We made it quite flexible. So now we have to have a list of prospects. So I'm going to create a few companies and flag them as prospects. Okay, so I cheat a little bit here because otherwise it will be very boring. So I'm just going to do one more to give you a hint of how easy it is to manage the details for this one. So I have now 4 prospects and 1 customer in the database of companies. So what I'm going to do now to have a list of customers, just create a page, and to keep it very simple is say page with prospects. So here it is. It will be in the menu, and this will apparently I'm not allowed to do this, probably because it's a demo environment. So what we're going to do just to demonstrate how this works in low code is that we have the companies listing here. So this is where it's defined how the listing is presented, and the data source is from the entity company. So I can change that, or better, I could add a where clause. So if I could imagine that people would do something like this, like customer status is prospect. So if it's not a number, you should use the notation like this. But I'm gonna make this error on purpose, so you can see that it's not scary. You can make mistakes. So after submitting, all is still working. So if I could just refresh the page, it says there's an error. Now, why is there an error? We're going to go back into the company's listing, and we're going to go back to what we just changed. So this is not the correct way to put it. So I'm going to save it, and we're going to have a look at what it should have been. Because what happens is that customer status, this is how humans read, right? This is spaces are not really something that SQL is happy with. So customer status, status name, that is actually what we should refer to. So we're going to go back into this one. This is what we had previously, and status name is the column that we want to have, and this is what we're going to filter. So if we're now going to go back to our listing, we're going to see that we only have the prospects here. So There is actually an easier way to filter this because you are allowed to activate filters for each column. But as we want to demonstrate how you can also apply SQL, this is somewhere intermediate. So let's go a little bit further. Again, we go to company's listing, and the secret is where the data source is, because currently we are using an entity as data source, which comes with a lot of features. So in many scenarios you are pretty happy with that. But if we go to source, you can do a lot more. You can call JSON, you can call database tables. So the fun thing for database tables is it will interact with everything that's already in there. The table names, this is, you can see there are entities as well, but if you want to go with users, for instance, you can call users here. So you can choose database tables, but for today we're going to go with SQL Advanced Query. So this is basically everything you want to do in SQL Server Management Studio, you can add here. To explain more about the options of SQL and its power, I moved to another environment where there's more data in it. So we're looking now, excuse me for some Dutch words in there, but we're looking at teachers and students. So this is an entity with students. I can show you because here data source entity student, but I can very easily say, well, I want to have this one and I want to still have the students, but this time using SQL. So in the most simple version, I select everything from this table. So it's app students. It always requires an ID column, and this is already enough to say, well, these are the fields that were earlier, but I can also add more fields if I feel like that. So if I want to display the start date or a picture or anything else, I can just add that. So for instance, phone, I can say, well, add selected, there's phone, and if there's actually a phone noted in the table, in the record, then it will be shown. So it saves, I'm going back, and here apparently there is already a phone there. So right now I'm displaying students with using SQL. So if I would want to query a bit more, I would probably say, well, I want certain students, for instance, from a certain teacher. So I'm going to first combine two tables, so students and teachers. So we're going to make a join and extend our SQL a bit. So we're going to go back to SQL and we're going to add the teachers table. So this is not enough. I'm just going to paste it because I know the syntax for this one. So I'm going to say, well, I want everything from this entity, which is actually a table. We're going to make a left join with this entity and we get it on this one because docent is the Dutch word for teacher. So there's a column which basically says teacher, which is a reference to the other table. So if I'm going to save this one, we're still going to see this, but if all went well, we're going to be able to add fields from the teacher. So where is this? Yeah, for instance, this one, it's an hourly fee, which belongs to teacher. So in fact, it all says, or here it says the teacher name. So I'm going to add that one to prove that now the two tables are linked. So, and of course here it says this is actually the teacher ID, not the teacher name. So there's a little bit more work to get it more in a more readable way, but this just demonstrates how powerful this feature can be. So the SQL Advanced Query, you can do anything here. So you can do more about future dates, past dates, anything regarding lessons between the teachers and students. So I hope that this gives a little bit more clarity about how to use SQL in a low-code environment. And if there are any more questions or requests, we'll be happy to demonstrate them as well.